Good morning, student. I am Dr. Barun from Medico Patna, and the today class is related to the respiration in human being. So the respiration that is also includes the breathing or ventilation. So the respiration is a amphibolic process. That means it both catabolic and anabolic. Why it is amphibolic? Because there is a breakdown of glucose and the formation of ATP. So due to the breakdown of glucose, it is catabolic, and the formation of ATP, it is anabolic process. So the respiration is amphibolic process, and the respiration is mainly two types: anaerobic and aerobic. Aerobic respiration, that means utilization of oxygen, mainly takes place in human being, but in human being also anaerobic respiration takes place, and there is a production of 36 or 38 ATP depending upon the shuttle system, such as glycerol phosphate shuttle, that is 36 ATP, malate aspartate shuttle, that is 38 ATP, and it is high energy value, and the anaerobic respiration, that is the no use of oxygen, and mainly takes place in yeast, bacteria, and all parasites such as earthworm, tapeworm, Tinea solium, Ascaris lumbricoid, liver fluke. So the all parasite, that is anaerobic respiration takes place. And in human being, that is there mainly two sites, that is the skeletal muscle in human being and mature mammalian RBC. Anaerobic respiration takes place, and there is a formation of lactic acid. And the respiratory organs, depending upon two things. One is habitat and second is level of organization. If there is an aquatic animal, then respiration organ is gill, and if terrestrial, then the respiratory organ is maybe a skin or lung. So the these depend upon the habitat. And second is level of organization. If there is a cellular level of organization, then general body surface. Respiration takes place by general body surface, such as the porifera, silentata, ctenophora, platyhelminthes, nematoda. These are the respiration takes place by the general body surface. But in case of earthworm, respiration takes place by the cuticle, that is the body surface. And in case of molluscan such as unio, respiration takes place by the gill. Respiration takes place gill is called branchial respiration, and if respiration takes place by a skin, then that is called cutaneous respiration, and respiration takes place by the lung, that is pulmonary respiration. But in case of fish, respiration takes place by only gill. And in amphibia, there is a three type of respiration. If that is called tadpole. So in case of tadpole, respiration takes place by gill. But in hibernation, estivation, respiration takes place by moist skin, that is cutaneous. And respiration takes place by the lung also in terrestrial condition. But in reptile, apes, mammal, lung is the respiratory organ. So the this is the human lung, and the lung is divided into two lobes, that is right lung and left lung. So right lung has the three lobes, and it is divided by the fissure. This is horizontal fissure and this is oblique fissure. So this is the three lobe in the right lung and the two lobe in the left lung, and it is divided by only one oblique fissure. And the right lung in the right lung is larger in weight and lower portion, because in right side there is a presence of diaphragm and liver, so it is lifted downward, and these are the upward. But the size is, right lung size is 625 gram, and the left lobe, that is the left lung, that is 565 gram. So 625 gram right lung and 565 gram left lung, and it is thinner, and there is a notch that is called cardiac notch, because there is a presence of last portion of heart. So this is the cardiac notch. So this is thinner side and this is thick side. Large size is larger, side is the small. And this respiratory tract is divided into upper respiratory tract and lower respiratory tract. So the respiratory tract starts from these are the nasal chamber and nasal cavity. So this is external nostril, this is internal nostril, and this is nasal chamber and separated by the nasal septum, and it has a mucus due to the catching of the dust particles. So this is external nostril, internal nostril, and this is nasal chamber divided by the septa, and one is called that is turbinal bone present in the nasal chamber, which is responsible for moistening and warming the external air. So the conducting part and the respiratory part, the conducting part of respiratory tract is external nostril, then nasal chamber, then internal nostril, then pharynx, that is also nasopharynx, because pharynx is divided into three parts, naso, oro, laryngo, and it is responsible for both food and air, and then glottis, then trachea, and then bronchi. Bronchi is divided into primary bronchi and secondary bronchi, and then tertiary bronchi at the level of T5, thoracic 5. And this bronchi is divided into bronchioles. So there are so many branches of bronchioles: lobular bronchiole, terminal bronchiole, respiratory bronchioles. So up to bronchiole there is a conducting part. So external nostril up to bronchiole is a conducting part. But after that there is a alveolar duct, and then atria, then alveolar sac, and then alveoli. And this is the respiratory part, because there is a exchange part or a respiratory part, because exchange of gas takes place. So alveoli, that is the unit of lung, and it consists around 300 millions in the both lung. Alveoli. So number of alveoli is 300 millions, and it is the structural and functional unit of lung. And this lung is surrounded by the pleural fluid, pleural membranes. So that membrane is pleural membrane, and it is filled with the pleural cavity, which acts as a shock absorber. And this lung consists the pneumocyte cell. So this pneumocyte cell is two types, type 1 and type 2. Type 1 is responsible for direct diffusion, but type 2 pneumocyte is responsible for release of one substance, that is surfactant, and this surfactant substance is responsible for surface tension. So this surfactant is mainly lecithin, cholesterol, some amount of protein, phospholipid. So this lecithin or surfactant is responsible for decrease the surface tension of the lung and prevent the collapse of lung. So surfactant is a pneumocyte type 2, releases from pneumocyte 2 from the Clara cell. So this surfactant is very important. Due to deficiency of surfactant, there is a chance of collapse of lung, that is atelectasis. So the surfactant is very important. And next is what is the steps of the breathing. So there are 5 steps of overall. First is called breathing, that means exchange of oxygen and then remove of CO2. Inhale of oxygen, that is inspiration, and release of CO2, that is expiration. So this process is called ventilation or breathing. Or inspiration is an active process, but expiration is a passive process. And transport of gas from outside to inside during the inspiration, there is a negative pressure breathing, because there is a transport from high pressure to the low pressure. So this is negative pressure breathing in human being. And second is diffusion. So diffusion is of the gas between alveoli and blood, between lung, that is alveoli and blood, and then transport of gas. This transport depends upon the partial pressure, from high partial pressure to low partial pressure, and then again diffusion. So again diffusion between blood and cell, that is tissue. So this also depends upon the partial pressure of oxygen CO2, and then utilization of oxygen on the cellular level or tissue level. So this utilization means the cellular respiration. So the cellular respiration is the 4 step. First is called glycolysis, then link reaction, then Krebs cycle, and ETS. So these are the collectively called cellular respiration. And during the aerobic condition, there is a formation of 36 or 38 ATP. 36 ATP, that is glycerol phosphate shuttle, and 38 ATP malate aspartate shuttle. And during anaerobic respiration, that is anaerobic respiration, only 2 ATP is synthesized. So the less amount of ATP synthesized during the anaerobic respiration. But glycolysis is common for both aerobic and anaerobic respiration. So these are the steps of the breathing process. So this is the lung, and this is the conducting and respiratory part, and this is the step of the respiration. Thank you.